Hey y'all, welcome and or welcome back to my channel. My name is Janae, if you didn't know, and today's video is day 3 of True Crime Christmas time. So if you're ready, let's go. Alright y'all, so as y'all can see in the thumbnail, I got coffee today because it's daytime. I gotta go to work. I can't be drinking. And it's cold outside, so hey. So the case that we're going to be talking about today is based in the UK. And if I'm not mistaken, I really do think that this is my first UK case. So hey to all of my UK viewers. So yeah, let's just go ahead and get right into the case. Today we're going to be talking about Samina Imam, who in 2014 was a 34-year-old regional marketing manager at Costco in the UK. So being that she was the regional marketing manager, that meant that she didn't have one stationary store. She had a number of stores that she would make rounds at, and a couple of those stores were in Bristol, Southampton, and Coventry. And it was at the Coventry store where she met and worked with one of the store managers named Roger Cooper. And even though it was against company policy to have intimate relationships with, within the company, especially between boss and subordinate, I guess, if that's what they call, is that a subordinate? Yeah, boss and not boss. They formed a relationship anyway. They really took a liking to each other. And at this time in 2014, they had been dating for 2 years, obviously keeping it on the low because they don't want their personal relationship to interfere with their jobs. Now, being that it had been 2 years, the couple seemed to be very serious. And so Samina thought that it would be okay for them to come out into the open. She wanted to make their relationship public. So they decided that after Christmas 2014, but before the start of the new year, they would make their relationship public. So this particular Christmas, Samina was really, really excited, and she decided that she would book a hotel room for them in Birmingham. And this hotel was a really nice upscale hotel. It said that she spent £500 for 2 nights at this hotel. So they would go there on Christmas Eve and then leave the morning of the 26th. And in preparation for their getaway, Samina left Costco on her lunch break and went to a store called Marks and Spencer's, and she bought a bottle of Bellini and she bought some chocolates and some candies, just preparing for her holiday getaway with her, well, he not her new man, but everybody else gonna think he her new man. And so she's super, super excited about this. At 4 o'clock, he leaves, she leaves, and you can see them on camera. He leaves a little bit ahead of her, and then she leaves. And so Samina talks to her sister, and she just basically talking to her like normal. Nothing seems out of the ordinary. And they talking about the holidays, they plans, and Samina confirms with her sister that she gonna be over the day after Christmas for Boxing Day. And if you are from the US and you have no idea what Boxing Day is, like I didn't know what Boxing Day was, I'll explain. So in the UK, Canada, and I think Australia maybe, the day after Christmas for them is called Boxing Day. This is their family gathering day. And they go shopping, they watch sports, and pretty much do everything that we do on Christmas Day, except for just the day after. And so Christmas Day comes and goes, and it's now Boxing Day. And Samina's family is expecting to see her there in Essex at her parents' house to celebrate Boxing Day with them, because she said she would be there. And when she didn't show up, her family got concerned because it just wasn't like Samina to not show up where she said she was going to show up. She was a very punctual person. She was the type of person who, if she said she was going to be there, she was going to be there, and she wouldn't not tell somebody if she wasn't going to be able to make it. And so once that day came and went, her family called the police and they filed a missing persons report. And the police actually got on it like right away. They started looking for her immediately. So the police are looking and looking, and there will be no sign of Samina. And so the police started talking to people around her, people who she knew, her closest friends, her family. And there was a couple of people who she did tell about her secret relationship with Roger. And so they started hearing the name Roger and wanted to talk to him. And so on January 1st, 2015, they would bring Roger in for an interview. They notified him that Samina was missing, and they wanted to know where he was, when's the last time he talked to her, the whole shebang. And he told law enforcement that he was in a relationship with Samina for a little bit, but they had just broken up recently, and she had sent him a text message that said, "I am fuming. I am going where I'm truly cared for." And that was the last time he had actually heard from Samina. He said that she was really, really upset because he didn't go to Birmingham with her, and she had already booked the room and done all of the things, and she was pretty much just mad that that he was wasting her money, and that's when she sent the text. And he said that when he left work at 4 o'clock, he went to his brother's house in Leicester. Quick little side note, when I first saw the way that Leicester was spelled, I kept saying Leicester. It looked like Leicester. I can't even say it now, but I kept saying Leicester. And then I heard a British person say it, and it was Leicester, and I felt dumb. But that's neither here nor there. Anyways, Roger said that he went to his brother David's house in Leicester as soon as he got off work at 4 o'clock, and he made it to his brother's house around 5. After he left his brother's house from getting his little Star Wars figure or whatever it was that he was getting from his brother's house, he went back home to Coventry, and he was there all night. And he even said that somebody would be able to corroborate this because he had a long-term girlfriend who he lived with named Susan, and Susan would be able to corroborate his alibi. And yes, y'all, I just said that Roger has a long-term girlfriend. So Samina was actually his second girlfriend. So obviously the police looking at him real hard because this is her boyfriend. He got a long-term girlfriend, and now his second girlfriend is missing. Like, okay, bro. But they didn't really have anything on him, and Susan did corroborate his story, so they had to let him go. Now, the next break in the case happened on January 4th when Samina's car was found. And there was a couple of things that investigators found a little bit strange. Number one, Samina was only 5'2", and when they opened the door to the car, this seat was pushed way back, like somebody so much taller than her was driving. And me being 5 feet myself, when I get in the car after my husband has driven, I'm looking like a little kid at the arcade trying to reach the pedals, okay? So they knew that there was no way this car was driven by Samina if the seat was pushed this far back. And then the fact that her purse wasn't in the car, there was no luggage in the car, because remember, she was supposed to be going to the hotel in Birmingham. And also there was no shopping bags, because remember, she had went to that M&S store and bought the Bellini and the chocolates. And this was all captured on CCTV. So officers knew for a fact that this had happened, but there was no bags, no purse, no suitcases, nothing. And when they started dusting for fingerprints, it was really, really weird because they weren't getting anything. Not a fingerprint at all, which would indicate that the car was wiped down, because if you drive in your own car, you're not just wiping it down every time you get out, unless you like are germaphobe and that's just what you do. Now, the thing that caught their attention the most, though, was the fact that her car wasn't found in Birmingham, where she was supposed to be going to the hotel. It wasn't found in Coventry, where she worked, and it wasn't found in Cardiff, where she lived. The place that they found her car was in Leicester. And remember, Roger said he went to his brother's house in Leicester. And because of how they found her car and where they found her car, they started to think that foul play was involved, and they started to, unfortunately, think the worst. And so they continued the investigation, and now they checked Samina's phone records. And it was found that her phone had went to Leicester, and it stopped there around 5 o'clock, and then it went back to Coventry. So she had never gone to Birmingham. And her phone records also showed that her phone was in the same place as Roger's phone, because y'all know they got his phone records too. It showed that her phone was in the same place as Roger's phone when the text message was sent saying that she was going somewhere where she's cared for. So that led them to believe that Roger was the one who texted himself from Samina's phone. So because Roger's brother lived in Leicester and Samina's phone was tracked in Leicester, they were able to get a search warrant for David, Roger's brother's home, because of the suspicion of foul play. So once they get to David's house, they are kind of perturbed because David is a hoarder. David got stuff everywhere. They was like, okay, so if there's anything here, how the hell are we supposed to find it? But they didn't have to look too far, because once they opened the refrigerator, they found that bottle of Bellini and the chocolates that Samina had bought. And they looking at David, and they realize that he's pretty tall. David is 6'7". So now things are starting to come together. Her seat was pushed all the way back. And I forgot to tell y'all, but police did see CCTV footage of a male driving her car. So they couldn't tell who it was, but they did have CCTV footage of a man driving her car. So they believed that man to be David. So when they take David back to the station for an interview, they show him a picture of Samina, and he said, oh yeah, I recognize her, but I don't really know her well. He pretty much said that the only reason he knew what she looked like because his brother had relations with her. He didn't say they were in a relationship. He just said that, you know, they were fooling around and that's what it was. But he didn't know her name, and he didn't really know her. And so the police were like, okay, well, was she ever at your house? And surprisingly, David didn't deny it. So David's story was that Roger came over at about 5 o'clock. He picked up his Star Wars action figure and he left. He said a couple minutes later, he got a knock at the door, and he opened it thinking that it was Roger, but it was Samina instead. And he said that he wouldn't open the door if he knew it was Samina because he don't like people, and he's not an interactive person, and so he wouldn't have opened the door. But being that he thought it was his brother, he opened the door, and Samina kind of just barged in asking where Roger was. Mind you, Samina's 5'2" and David is 6'7". I don't know how she barging past you if you don't want her in your house, but neither here nor there. David said that he told her to have a seat on the couch. He offered her some tea. She didn't want to drink it. She just got up and was irate, yelling, screaming, having a whole fit about where Roger was and how they were supposed to go to Birmingham. He's wasting her time, and how she wanted to be with Roger, and blah, 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 blah. And David said that he just couldn't have that. He just wanted to shut her up, really. He said that his walls were paper thin, and he just didn't want her screaming like that. And so instead of putting her out, he said that he grabbed a bottle of chloroform that he conveniently had stashed away in his kitchen because he collects things. I mean, okay, we know you're a hoarder, but like, why do you have chloroform? Why? But anyways, he grabbed this bottle of chloroform and he put a little bit of it on a tea towel and placed it over her mouth until she fell unconscious. Now, he said that he had seen this in movies plenty of times, so he really didn't think too much of it because he knew that it would only knock her out. And he fully expected her to wake up shortly after. However, when she didn't wake up and he realized that she wasn't going to wake up, he kind of panicked and went into self-preservation mode. And he was like, okay, so don't nobody know she's here. I can handle this. Okay, so he said that he called a friend named Ben and told Ben what happened. And Ben just gladly came over, took Samina, and that was the last that David had seen of her. And he has no idea where Ben took her or what Ben did with her. And so that was David's story. And so after David's confession, and combined with the fact that Roger sent the text message to himself from Samina's phone, both brothers were arrested on January 7th and were charged with the murder of Samina. Even though they hadn't recovered her yet, based off of all of the evidence, they had enough to charge them. So not long after the brothers were arrested, a tip came in that the police should probably check an allotment that David owned. And once again, if you're from the US and you have no idea what an allotment is, apparently over in the UK, or maybe even in other parts of the world, I don't know, but in the UK, you can buy a plot of land where most people just use it as a garden. And so David had one of these allotments, but at his allotment, there was no fruits and vegetables. I think he kind of just had it because he was a hoarder. He just bought it just because. So the police follow up on this tip and they go to David's allotment. They start looking around and they start digging and trying to see if they will be able to find Samina. While they're looking, they come across a sign and it says, "Don't wind me up. I'm running out of places to hide the bodies." And it's like, I don't know if David thought that was funny when he bought it, or it was just very eerie that that sign was there. Because 4 days after the search at the allotment started, they would uncover Samina's body. When the medical examiners did her autopsy, they found that her cause of death was due to the chloroform, which was really, really strange because chloroform don't usually kill you. It usually just knocks people out. So they thought that was kind of weird. However, she did have an array of different metals in her body, and some of those were antimony, cadmium, tin, mercury, and arsenic. And so some people believe that the combination of those with the chloroform is what caused her death, but it's unclear. So the brothers went on trial in October of 2015, and this is when the truth of the matter came out. This is when the real story came out, because I'm sure y'all already know that David's story was some BS, okay? So it came out that once Samina and Roger left work, Samina went and parked her car somewhere and Roger came to pick her up. But Roger told her he wanted to take a quick little detour to his brother's house in Leicester. I don't know what the reason that he gave was, but he did say that he wanted to take a detour. And so they went to Leicester. And as soon as they got to David's house in Leicester, the two of them attacked Samina. Like I told you, David is 6'7". Roger is 6'5". Samina, I know I keep saying it, but she's 5'2". She's a little bitty thing. There was no way she was going to be able to fight these two. And so after they attacked Samina and they were sure she was dead, Roger left and he went back to Coventry, home to Susan, who told the detectives that he was there because he was. He went to the house at 5 o'clock like he said he did, and he left and went home like he said he did. But what he left out was the fact that he helped kill Samina. So he goes back home and leaves David to take care of Samina. And what David did was take Samina's key. He took a train back to Coventry, got her car and moved it to where they found it, and then he disposed of her body at his allotment. The motive that the prosecution said that Roger had was the fact that Samina actually gave him an ultimatum because she did know about Susan. However, Roger kept telling her that he was going to leave Susan, and he kept saying it. And this is the classic, I'm going to leave my wife, I swear I am. And then they never do. But Samina wasn't going for it no more. She said, either you leave her or I'm gone. Like, period, point blank. And they said that Roger didn't want this to happen for a number of reasons. One, because his job would be in jeopardy, because not only was he in a relationship with Samina, who was his boss, he was also in a relationship with another Costco worker named Sinead Sweeney, and he was her boss. Roger just didn't want none of this to come out. And then he didn't want Susan to know that he had been cheating on her with not one, but two women. And he was afraid that Samina would tell and all this craziness would happen, and he just couldn't have that in his life. And so he decided to end Samina's life. And it also came out that this wasn't their first attempt on Samina's life. The attempt before this happened on December 12th, 2014. And this attempt happened in Solihull, where after a company Christmas party, Samina decided that she wasn't going to drive all the way back to Cardiff where she lived, which is in Wales, by the way, not in England. I learned that along my little journey here. Wales is not England. It is part of the UK though. I didn't know that until this case, but neither here nor there once again. So she decided that she wasn't going to drive back to Cardiff where she lived. She was just going to stay in Solihull. She was going to get a hotel there and spend the night and drive back and drive home the next day. Now, Roger ended up telling Samina that he had also gotten a hotel room there and that he had a surprise for her. Now, the whole time, Roger wasn't even there. It was David who was waiting in the parking lot, and he was just sitting there pretty much waiting to abduct Samina. Now, while David was in the parking lot, he and Roger would be in communication with each other, but they're not using normal text message lingo. They're not talking. They're just not speaking normally. They were speaking in Star Wars code, and one of the text messages said, Death Star complete. And another one says, stay on target, stay on target. You are expected, Vader. In any event, this attack didn't happen because Samina was dropped off really close to the door. And so Samina just walked in and David wasn't able to abduct her like the plan had called for. And so they aborted that mission, but unfortunately their next plan didn't fail and Samina lost her life on December 24th, 2014. All because Roger didn't want to be exposed. Like, sir, don't do things to be exposed for. Duh. And then Mr. David over here, he didn't even have a motive. He was just like really gung-ho. Either he is the most ride or die brother ever, or he had some sick, sinister fantasies about killing somebody the whole time, and this was just the perfect opportunity for him. I don't know. But in any event, both of the brothers were sentenced to 30 years in prison for their crime, and yeah, I don't think that's enough time. Anyways, guys, that is all I have for you today. Thank you so very much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you all for day 4 of True Crime Christmas time. Bye. The case that we're going to be talking about today is actually based in the U.S. And I think this is my first U.S. girl. You live in the U.S. No. He was also in a relationship with a floor worker named Sinead Sweeney. They speaking in Star Wars code. Is it Star Wars or Star Trek? I don't know the difference, but hold on, let me see. Either he is like the most ride or die brother I have ever met. Well, I ain't meet him. I will see you all for day 4 of, damn, I keep wanting to say Halloween.